Where next for Forex? Where next for the currency markets post FOMC? Well, I think one thing which has been interesting is actually some of the major currencies is that the pound is already post FOMC making new highs. We're not quite there as far as the euro is concerned at the moment. So where next? Well, sometimes you look at the basics of trading. The euro and the pound bottomed out in April, and if we go back to the pound as well, they put a low in April, and they've been just making higher lows and higher highs since then. There's been a lot of people who have been quite bearish towards the pound and towards the euro, and yet here they keep on making new higher lows and highs. But that's just on the daily chart. Let's go and actually, if you want to see, well, where next, you have to go out to the higher time frames as well. You can't just get caught up in the dailies. So if we come out to the weeklies, again, we can see those that's the October lows from last year. This is the April low here. So we can see this major breakout for the pound, having broken out through July of last year's high. So the pound's leading. Look at the moving averages all fanning out here as well on the weekly charts. It's a good sign. Now, then let's go out to the monthly time frame. Again, we've broken through some key moving averages here. Price has broken through clearly now through the 50-month moving average here and the 100-month moving average. The 20-month moving average is facing up. So it looks very much like mean reversion on the monthly charts. What I mean by that is a mean reversion to some of the other higher moving averages, perhaps ultimately to this 200. Looks like a long way away at the moment, but that'll gradually be coming down with every month that passes. Overall, this looks like, this is a breakout. We've been consolidating for a year. Again, lots of people were looking for the pound to roll over. It's not happened. It's done the opposite of that, and there still looks like there's more scope on the upside here for the likes of the pound. Where to? We've got these prior highs now. Let's even just, dare we say it, 140. There is a level just a bit below 140 as well, about 137, 138 on the quarterly time frame, and that's that quarterly 50. So we're in this mean reversion sort of affair at the moment of reverting back to some of these much higher time frame moving averages. And if we come over to the dollar index, I covered off the dollar index a few weeks ago. Just check out the videos. And the dollar index is flirting with that key 100 level down there. So yes, it's sort of done a near-term potential double bottom, but I think it's only a matter of time before the dollar index, as it's come down on the weekly 200, but it's only a matter of time before it comes down to that 100 level there as well. And of course, if I'm looking for the pound dollar, if we go back to the pound dollar, if we're looking at the pound dollar as having more potential upside, then you have to be looking at the dollar index and seeing more potential downside there as well, beyond 100. Of course, going back to the pound to start off with, the pound will have retracements. It will continue to have retracements at some stages. So if we go back to the daily charts, much like we've just seen here, that we had a pretty strong retracement here coming through July, August, and then another 2-week retracement here into early September. So there will be other retracements, but I think it's really important to always keep your eye on what is the predominant trend, unless you're looking for a major reversal into major resistance. So don't get too caught up in retracements if you are trying to trade a given trend. Going over to the euro dollar, it's a similar looking chart really to that of cable there. Made a low in April and has been making higher lows since. It hasn't quite broken out like cable did just this past week, but it's still in the right position, much like the Aussie dollar. Yes, it just about broke to a new high, but then just came off. It's in the right position. The New Zealand dollar, not quite breaking to new highs, but it's still in a good position here. So all of these markets, these currencies, are in reasonable positions. It doesn't mean to say that they don't go into a consolidation. and chop around for a week or two. That is always possible in the currency markets at any time. But generally speaking, as I use the language, until proven otherwise, going back to the leader out of these, the pound, I guess, until proven otherwise, the trend is to the upside on the dailies, and we're seeing a building momentum there on the higher time frames as well. So people will say, well, therefore, what would change that? So if until proven otherwise, well, what would prove otherwise? So some people would now, considering we've made this new higher low, it's reasonable to expect that if price did roll all the way back over and take that low out, then it's then taken out the last, well, that is the last higher low in this sequence here on the daily charts. And that's a valid point. However, look again, putting it into context of what's going on the higher time frames, would a pullback down to there, if I come back out to the monthlies, would that actually change anything on the monthly chart? Not overly. It would just be a retracement relative to the price action on the monthlies. You're always at times going to have larger retracements. So even if the pound took that out, so for me, the pound's got to really roll over back down into below 127 most likely, because if we go below 127, that's putting it much more likely, and probably even below that actually, into no man's land down here again and potentially rolling over. So the pound has got to do a lot to the downside in order to change what is going on at the moment. As far as the dollar yen is concerned, a lot of people interested in that. It had this huge run to the downside. There was a huge run of positioning, unwinding in the hedge fund managers, large speculators in the futures markets. They were massively short the yen, and then they had to switch, and they're now actually gone the opposite way, and they're now net long the yen, and potentially, and now the yen's starting to retrace again. So at the moment, as far as retracements are concerned, it certainly has the scope to run higher. I've got my daily 50 here as a first port of call. Of course, that's going to be moving with every day down towards price. So I do see the scope for a retracement here in the dollar yen. However, the jury's out for me at the moment when I come to the higher time frames. Now, at least when looking at the weekly chart here, it's come down into these lows of late 23 and bouncing. But it's a very strong deep retracement. Is this just a bounce and then we still get a retest? So I'm open to that at the moment. But in the near term, yes, it looks like we could see a bit more consolidation at least, or bounce further. But overall, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back at some point and reattacks those lows at some stage. Outside of that, if we go and have a look at gold, which has been a grand leader here through this move. One thing to point out, we were covering this off in the trading room a couple of weeks ago. This consolidation here. Consolidations after an upwards run are a bullish formation, unless they're not. So, because of course it could end up being distribution, but you have to make assumptions in the markets, and a sideways consolidation after an up move is it's a bullish overall sign. So, and there were certain patterns within that we were looking at for the breakout. So gold, yes, is continuing to the upside. In fact, if I come out to a monthly chart, and if I just put my trend lines on, then there's this lovely technical analysis cup and handle pattern on the monthly chart, and the projections, if you take the base of the cup and you project that forwards from the breakout point, gives an upside target of still higher for gold, so 2900. But of course, gold's had a very good run, and much like any market, it can pull back at any stage. But that is the trend, and don't don't think, oh, it's gone so far. People make this mistake all of the time. It's gone so far, it can't surely go any higher. Let me give you an example of a period whereby in real time it looked like that, and yet all it did was go higher. So let me put this into replay mode and let's go to there. Okay, look at that. That looks like, oh my god, it can't go any higher. You're right, it did a spike reversal. But actually, if I take this back now, all it did at that point, where is it? Here. So it was really just a sideways consolidation and then carried on another march higher. So yes, I mean, I know this is a monthly chart, and so that went sideways for several months. But my point is that if you're looking at any time frame, that just because something looks extended, it can go again. I'll give you another example on gold, actually, back through here on the quarterly chart. So if I just pick a point and put it into replay mode again. So if I pick this point here, look how extended that looks, and yet if I now take it forwards again, how much further it went until it finally, that was back here, until it finally did top out. So it's very difficult to, when a market's having a really strong run, to ascertain when that might exhaust itself, because they may extend themselves further, and you think, oh, surely it can't go any higher, my indicators are overbought, and yet markets can remain overbought for much longer than you think. So anyway, that's a bit on gold. So yes, so not really too much to say there again, but looking at the daily chart, of course, having said what I've just said, gold could pull back at any time like any other market. But the point is, with these overall what we're seeing on many of these markets I've just picked out here this morning, is that they're in trends. Whether I'm looking at gold, whether I'm looking at even the silver here breaking out, the pound, the Aussie, they're all moving to the upside, to the euro to the upside, so the dollar index to the downside. So that's the overriding theme at the moment. There will be retracements, and at some point there will be major reversals, but until proven otherwise, these are the trends. There you go. That's a little bit of analysis, nice and light here, post FOMC from last week. If I could go into all the details of what's gone on and what was said in the week, but essentially the market has taken all that information in and priced it. So we're in reasonable trends here across many of these markets. So you have to assume, even if they do pullbacks or consolidations, that until proven otherwise, the trends are in play.